Goodness gracious, it's been a spot of time since I last went to Japan, hasn't it? Well, not went, but covered banned from the land of the rising sun, which is also the land of pixel genitalia, sushi, and anime, which, as you all know, is not a form. What you may not know is what I'm about to tell you about X-Japan. They first formed in 1982 in Tateyama, Chiba, Japan, and through a few lineup changes as well as breakup in 1997 before reforming 10 years later, they released 4 albums of Japanese visual kei goodness and are seen as pioneers of the genre. It's another super blind episode, it's my job to tell you how high the sun rises and how low the sun falls. Now, let's face the music. We start with the band's debut album, Vanishing Vision, released in 1988 through the band's own label of Ecstasy. It was produced by X-Japan themselves, and it's their shortest album at 42 minutes and 3 seconds. Now, background. So the band initially formed under just the name of X, but since it's too late to go back for me, I'm going to stick with X-Japan. So, there you go. Anyway, lead singer Toshimitsu Tateyama and drummer keyboardist pianist Yoshiki were in a band called Dynamite, later Noise, before they were even teenagers, but after they broke up, Toshi and Yoshiki Hayashi formed another band with just X as the name until they came up with a better one, and yes, for those wondering, Yoshiki is the same one I mentioned just a few moments ago. But the name stuck with them, so they kept it. They started performing in Tokyo in 1988 with a constantly shifting lineup, but for this album it would comprise of Yoshiki and Toshi, along with guitarist Hideto Hide Matsumoto and Tomoaki Pata Ishizuka, and bassist Taiji Sawada. With this lineup in mind, the band formed their own label of Ecstasy Records, remaining an independent band because of that, and they even got a chance to audition for CBS Sony in December 1987, which led to the band getting signed permanently in August the following year. Since Vanishing Vision came out in April of 1988, it's still independent, and the album itself was a huge hit. It sold out 10,000 copies in its first week, topping Japan's Oricon Indies chart, as well as X-Japan being the first indie band to make it onto Oricon's main albums chart as well. And they toured like absolute beasts, going on the Vanishing Volume 2 and Burnt Out tours, performing at the Difa Ariake Arena and appearing in the movie Tokyo Pop. I'd like to think that the album itself has a lot to do with that. It was the 80s where hair metal was all the rage, and I dare say that X-Japan is sort of the Japanese Motley Crue in some ways. They play a good mix of power and glam metal, and the structuring is quite unique amongst the genre, going to a lot of challenging areas. The lyrics cover love, pain, and betrayal, and are all told in a good way, with a good mix of Japanese and English, so it's not too confusing for either audience. And the band are all pretty solid. Toshi has good range and charisma to his delivery, Hide and Pato provide some solid riffs to back things up, Taiji's bass work is solid, nice and thick, and Yoshiki's drumming is heavy and punchy with good work on the keyboards and pianos as well. Certain songs include the title track, Sadistic Desire, Give Me the Pleasure, and my favourite in Alive. Oozing coolness and with a raw production that still holds up even 30 years after its release, Vanishing Vision deserves its accolades, with the good writing and emotion to back it up, so yeah, I can recommend this one. We then reached their second album, Blue Blood. Released in 1989, it came out through CBS Sony, was produced by X-Japan themselves, and it's the band's longest album at 1 hour, 5 minutes and 8 seconds. Now, background. So after their debut was a great success on an indie label, the band toured to promote their second album pretty quickly afterwards, explaining why that's the shortest time gap between albums for the band. They embarked on the Blue Blood tour, selling out 2 concerts in advance, including a show at the famous Shibuya Public Hall, which the band released as a home video later, titled the Blue Blood Tour Bakuhatsu Sunzen Gig. I really hope I'm saying that right. And not long after that fact, the album itself would be released, and it would be followed by the Rose and Blood tour to support it. However, that tour had to be suspended for a little bit as Yoshiki would collapse during a show in November of 1989, and for those who know the band, pay attention because that's going to be a running theme. However, that wouldn't completely hurt the band as they would continue their tour in May the following year, and eventually their hard work earned them the Grand Prix New Artist of the Year at 1990's Japan Gold Disc Awards. This album would be different from their debut in terms of overall sound though, having a speedier pace to it for one thing, but another telling sign is one of the songs. In their debut, they had a song called Kurenai, which also made its way into this album, only being 23 seconds longer this time. Weirdly though, the original version has a more symphonic intro, which is conspicuously absent on the version found on this album. That surprises me since the song is over 6 minutes long, but there you go. And also, that's not the only song, but I feel like it's one of the bigger examples. Anyway, this album basically coined visual kei as a term. The X on the cover was a saying inlaid which reads, psychedelic violence crime of visual shock, which is a fucking badass saying, and totally fits what people may know as visual kei. It also adds to the more theatrical nature of the album, also having a somewhat lighter tone than their debut, and that bleeds well into the structure, which is fast-paced and bolstered with slick production, and the lyrics covering sex, addiction, love and pain, all to interesting degrees are handled well, and the band are pretty good here too. Toji's vocals sound cleaner and crisper, Hide and Potter provide more good riffs and some clean solos too, Toji's bass is deep and toned well, and Yoshiki's drumming is heavy as hell, with his piano work sweeping along beautifully. Standard songs include Easy Fight Rambling, the title track, Endless Rain Celebration, and my favourite in Rose of Pain. Extra Japan filled this lengthy album out well with fun songs, a better grasp of their tone, and solid writing, so I can recommend this one. I don't know why I'm flipping so much, I'm sorry. We then reached their third album, Jealousy, released in 1991. It would come out through Sony Records and would be produced by X Japan again. Now, background. See, that was easy. This would be the band's last with its lineup at the time, as Taiji would leave after the album's release, and it would also be the band's last name under just the X, but because I cheat on the show all the time, I shall stick with the X Japan name as I mentioned earlier. Anyway, following the world success of Blue Blood, the band flew over to Los Angeles in late 1990 to record their follow-up album. Well, I say the bands. Yeah. You see, Sony Records gave the band permission to record wherever they wanted, and as Yoshiki was the band leader, even though he was the drummer, he wanted to record in Paris and London. But the rest of the band outvoted him, so they wound up recording it in LA instead. When the band arrived back in Japan to release and promote the album there were so many fans waiting at the airport that the Japan Self-Defense Forces had to calm the crowd down of about 500 people at an airport. That's quite a bit. And the album would again sell well, as it would sell 600,000 copies in its first week, earning it a million-selling ranking from the Recording Industry Association of Japan, which I think means gold over there if you compare it to the RIAA. The month after the album was released, the band embarked on the Violence in Jealousy tour, with their first date being in the highly prestigious Tokyo Dome. The tour would last through the year, but had to stop briefly in October after Yoshiki again clashed after a gig at Yokohama Arena. They did close off the tour in December at NHK Hall, where they performed with the full orchestra. Then, in 1992, they performed 3 back-to-back shows at the Tokyo Dome from the 5th to the 7th of January, called the Tokyo Dome 3 Days on the Verge of Destruction, a poignant title as based as Taiji would leave after those shows were over. Is this album worth all those accolades, though? Well, once again, I like to think so. It's got really good production and everything sounds clean, with the pacing being as fast as ever and more restrained, and even has darker lyrics about jealousy, pain, past mistakes, and lust, and the band all sell it well, too. Toji's vocals soar along well and still have good range. Hide and Pato play some good riffs with some nice solos attached. Toji's bass is pretty good for his last performance, with depth and thickness to its sound, and Shika's drumming is speedy and mean as always, with good piano work too. Standard songs include Silent Jealousy, Voiceless Screaming, Joker, Desperate Angel, and my favourite in the closing song, Say Anything. Still fun, but with better production and a darker tone, not to mention good performances and instrumental work. Jealousy deserves its accolades and more, so I can recommend this one. And finally, we reached the band's 4th album, Dahlia. Released in 1996, it would be their first for Atlantic, and it was produced by the band's drummer, Yoshiki Hayashi. Now, background. So there were quite a lot of changes for this one. One of those is that this is the band's first full-length release under the X Japan name, if you don't count their Art of Life EP, which is literally just 129-minute long songs, so it's a single then, it's not an EP. Anyway, another change is that we'd get a new bassist in Hiroshi Heath Morie, and I'd like to take this chance to talk about the passings of Hide and Taiji, who would die in 1998 and 2011 respectively. So, it might be safe to say that Hide's passing would put a strain on the band after this album's release, which could also be part of why this was the band's last album before their breakup until their reunion in 2007. Other things were the band members focusing on their solo careers as well, and one thing that didn't help was what was happening to lead vocalist Toshi, who got caught up in a cycle of abuse and bankruptcy. As for the album's promotion, even that had gone awry. During a tour in March 1996, Yoshiki suffered a herniated disc, causing the band to cancel their tour, but they did manage to perform 2 shows at the Tokyo Dome that December. In September the following year after that, however, the band would announce their split. Keeping to their tradition, they performed their last show at the Tokyo Dome in December 1997, titled The Last Live Last Night, ending a 5-year run of the band performing at that venue on New Year's Eve. And the behind-the-scenes stuff had an effect on the album. It's a lot more serious as the band dressed down to a more traditional rock look, and also has a different, more prog and traditional metal-focused sound than the usual glam and speed stuff. That's backed up in the production with more techniques used that the band never really tried before. And props to the band, if you didn't know what was going on, you never would have assumed that. The structure and performances here are stellar, with the pacing being handled a lot better, and the lyrics covering more emotional topics like family, friendship, love, and hopelessness ring out really, really well, and the band executes this balance great too. Toji's vocals have more grit to them, but still glide along greatly. Hide and Pata add some great, more slightly complex riffs and breakdowns. Heath fits in well with a great joint to his bass work, and Yoshiki's drumming and piano work are top-notch, all combining well. Standout songs include the intro title track, Longing, Drain, Crucify Me, and my favourite, In Scars. Dahlia has a bad history, but is still a great known for the bands it goes on, well, at the time. With neat production, good performances, and raw emotional lyrics, so I can recommend this one. So, let's round them up. Most favourite is maybe Blue Blood. For an album that long, it really drags along, and I love how theatrical and fun it feels at places, so even when it could have wasted time, it doesn't, and I really, really like that. Least favourite is maybe Vanishing Vision. There are parts of it where the band took themselves a bit too seriously, as opposed to the right amount on Dahlia, say. But I hold nothing against it, and hope that I don't make some people cross with the choices, because cross, X, yeah. Anyway, join me next time for my last two-part episode where I cover Eugene, Oregon's own Yob. What episode that's going to be? Well, join me next time on Backtracking. Join me later tonight for a stream, then tomorrow, possibly for the night review, then a stream after that. Then I'm hoping to actually put up a new vocal cover next week. Stuff is still going to happen though, so as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.